Welcome to Spirit Journey Collective. I'm your host, Sarah Ty. Get ready for compelling conversations with guests of all walks of life who believe they have found their purpose. Together, we will uncover unique backstories, hearing the raw experiences that led them to the work they are doing today. Let's expand our minds together with the captivating stories and inspiration that awaits. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Spirit Journey Collective. I have a really great guest today. Her name is Shawna Vargas. She's an artist, an author, a spiritual and personal development workshop facilitator, and so much more. So I just can't wait to dive in and get to know you better. Thank you so much for being here today, Shawna.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate your interview style, and I've been watching your videos. I really excited to be here with you.
Thank you. I'm really excited that you're here as well. So why don't we start with just a little bit about you? So tell our listeners a little bit about your how you're an author, maybe share about your book and what it means to be a spiritual personal development workshop facilitator. I'd love to hear like all of that.
Okay, great. I serve what I feel like is an underserved population, that people who have undergone spiritual, mental, emotional trauma, and even more specifically, who are desiring to establish or reestablish a connection with the divine or a vibrant spiritual life. Trauma can really strip away any sense of safety or trust or faith that we're able to have. Even after healing, it can leave one's perspective altered from what mainstream, regardless of what that path looks like, of any path, of trusting in something unseen. It's a trauma-informed approach, and I try to establish kind of a balance between empowering ourselves from within and at the same time leaving room for magic. Because love, and that's my path, is love, has a magic. There is a phenomenon to it. And if you've lived here very long on this planet, chances are you have seen love work and witnessed it in others' lives, experienced in yours, even from something as simple as a stranger smiling at you or telling you a funny joke just to make you laugh. Just the way it makes you feel inside and lifts you in an almost mystical way. There is a magic to love, and I believe that there's more than that, that there's an energetic metaphysical ability to love. And I'm real gentle with myself, having been through what I've been through, because I believed in a higher power before, and I believed in my intuition, and the particular path that I was on led to trauma specifically, and it was what I believed was a spiritual path. So I'm real gentle with myself, and I have a little test that I do with my intuition, and we can get into that later.
It really sounds like you are a light worker. You're out here really trying to help people from their darkest spots and places in life to finding, like you said, that magic. And trauma is such a heavy topic that not everyone is
Yes.
ready to delve in and deal with that. But in order to grow and evolve, we have to go there and not just grow and evolve, but tap into the love that you're speaking to, because you can't
Yes.
touch that if you're in trauma. And if you're in trauma response, like you don't even trust it. But love is literally the answer to everything. I love this quote
Yes.
that says, love's the answer. Now, what was the question? And I just love that because it's the truth.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that it sounds like there's more to, why you're doing the work that you do, which I'd love to tap into that if you're open to sharing. But it sounds like
Definitely.
you took, I don't know if you've heard the saying, the dark night of the soul, but it
Oh,
sounds like,
yes.
okay, yeah. So I could be wrong, but it sounds like you kind of went on your own dark night of the soul, and now you're helping
Uh-huh.
be a guiding light for those that are doing the same.
Yes. Yes, I hope to be, and to quicken their journey, because mine was such a slow progression with so many setbacks, and that's natural. A lot of that detours, pit stops, setbacks, it's all organic and part of the journey. I don't think it needs to be in love, that it needs to be so much suffering. The way I see love and the way I experience love in my life now is that I can go through things, but there's a difference. And I got this idea from Tony Robbins. There's a difference between pain and suffering. And pain is a normal part of life, but there is a suffering that I believe is completely unnecessary for love's purposes. She has beautiful ways. And of course, I have to pause and mention that I see love as a conscious and intelligent entity. There's a nature and a character and a real, just a collective consciousness of all the beauty and the consensus of what love is. Love is gracious, love is kind, doesn't get angered easily, isn't arrogant. And so there's these things that love does and doesn't do. And we, on peripheral things about love, we disagree. But for most of us on this earth, there's a general idea. So I think of her as conscious intelligence and as being a superpower, maybe not all powerful, or some things wouldn't happen. But there is, before I digressed, there is a way of moving through life that doesn't require suffering. She has a way to develop empathy and develop lessons without going through that. That is not in her purpose. That's not her thing. And so I don't know how to explain how certain things happen. And I think there are some mysteries that are beyond a lot of us, this side of transitioning forward. But there's just so much joy, so much fulfillment, so much love, so much peace and comfort. That's the big thing about love, that there is a comfort within anything we go through. And it can be found through that deeper understanding and through that centeredness in love that is within. And that may be very foreign idea to many. And I hope to offer hope and inspiration and one possible journey forward of moving forward in love, in joy, in comfort, and in fulfillment and abundance and all of love's good. So I think that's possible, and because I was beyond hopeless. I was below zero, way below, and for a very long time. And love has done the miraculous for me, and she can for anyone, I think, who is open, and it doesn't require a loss of a sense of safety. There can be that safety and that comfort in taking your own steps forward and empowering yourself and holding space and allowing love to hold space for you until you're ready to move into that place of strength and empowerment. And so it's just a whole worldview for me. And it's been a healing journey. And I'm at a place in life right now where, gosh, the best place I've ever been.
You touched on so many different things, like the difference between suffering and pain. And you're right, like pain is part of life. I like to even call it growing pains, because in order to grow and evolve, we do have to go through some healing. And usually the healing is healing pain from the past. But suffering is when you're living in it. It's when you're lost in it. It's when that's all you
Right.
see, hear, and feel. And love is like, it just feels unattainable. I also, love your definition of love, because to me, God, divine source, and love is like all one and the same. I don't know if
Yes.
you see it, but yeah, to me, they're all the same. It's the same source. And as you're saying just a moment ago, there is no negativity in love. There's no judgment. There's no,
Right.
I think that people forget that part. There's no judgment. It's unconditional. And we not only can have this for others, we can create this for ourselves. And that's how we can create community and connection. And I think that what you're speaking to, for those that are more lost in the suffering, I like to almost call it the difference between sleepwalking and being awake.
Yeah,
And
that's a good analogy.
yeah, because when you're sleepwalking and you're suffering, that's all you see, and you're just not aware enough to know that there's more. And so I feel
Right.
like what people like you are doing, and me, and all these different wonderful people I'm interviewing, we're all kind of doing similar things to help wake people up and find
Yeah.
themselves.
And I love that metaphor that, when it's suffering, it is like a nightmare. It can be, for some people, it can be unbearable. It can be almost beyond human capacities to experience. It's a spiritual experience. And to come from a darkness like that and to maintain a relationship with spirit that is positive and is progressive is really a huge accomplishment and milestone, because I think of the devastation and just the hell that I went through, and where I am today. It was unimaginable. I could not in any way envision a life like this for me. And so to me, it's miraculous. What I found is that a lot of people who go through this kind of severe trauma after having had a relationship with the divine, or what they believed was a relationship with spirit, after they go through that, a lot of them in recovery choose a more atheistic path or an agnostic path. And that's those, I honor those. If they're at peace with that, and that's what brings them their joy and their comfort, then all paths, however, are valid. But for me, I just was so brokenhearted that I couldn't trust anymore, and I couldn't have magic. I just felt purposeless, even though I have this beautiful grown son and these beautiful grandchildren. There was this emptiness, there was this hole in me, and I felt no purpose, no purpose. This was my creative way of moving forward.
When we go through pain and suffering, it does help us really appreciate the love and the beauty when we find it. And I don't think we would be able to appreciate it as much, and it would almost lose its meaning if we didn't have that difficult period. Also, those that come from the background of trauma and kind of lose their trust with the divine, I can relate to that, because I grew up very Christian, and I don't think any of us gets out of life without trauma. We all experience it.
Right.
Mine was in the flavor of an alcoholic, abusive father. So that was my experience growing up, plus a lot of religious stifling as well. Just kind of like hush hush, we don't talk about stuff, and very like self-righteous, but double standard. It was very confusing. And of course, with the abuse that no one really acknowledged in my family, we all kind of pretend like it didn't exist because we weren't supposed to talk about it, and walking up and all these things that unfortunately took me into my own abusive relationships later on. But I did break away from the church pretty young. I was probably 16, 17 when I just basically denounced my faith. But then I went the next several years in the agnostic kind of atheist place, where like I wanted to believe in something. I didn't know what, and I didn't know if I could trust anything, because I also went to Wicca shortly after I left the church. And of course, I was going to go to the farthest extreme, right? And that didn't feel right to me either, because I think just for me personally, it felt like the extremism of the other side. They have elements, and I was like, no, that doesn't. And again, for anyone listening, whether you're Christian or Wiccan or Buddhist or whatever, everyone has their faith, and it's going to work for everyone and resonate on their own level for everyone. Like you said, we all have our own paths. But for me personally, it felt too stifling again. And so it wasn't until the last 3 years when I finally delved inward and started looking at spiritual aspects from a bigger perspective that I was able to see, for me, I just can't fit into a box. I think they're all right. I think that it's over encompassing. I think having that sense of spirituality and faith is important. So whether you find it in Christianity or in a coven and as a, as a Wiccan or as a Buddhist or whatever it is, I think the faith piece and that spiritual relationship is what's important. Because I think it's all one and the same. I think that really it's all one and the same. But if you have a relationship and a trust with that higher power, that's what matters, is knowing that they have that higher power, whatever you believe in, has your back. And so I can see where you're saying a lot of people who come out of deep trauma, who may have had a relationship or thought they did with whatever power they had, how they would feel like kind of jaded, maybe. How did this happen to me? And this isn't really cool or fair or okay at all. And then kind of makes you think there's nothing else out there, which, I will say one of the things that really shifted my life, and it sounds a lot like kind of like for you too, when you found this belief in love and this belief in compassion and, this belief in yourself, really, that was similar to me. I was in therapy, and towards the end, I went through a very tumultuous time for like 5 years. So I was so thankful that I got to hold on to the same therapist. But towards the end of our sessions, he was really starting to kind of hint like, time to leave the nest, He's a good sign of a good therapist. And so one of the things that he kept saying to me, probably the last couple months before I stopped seeing him, was, that sounds like a spiritual problem. What does that mean?
That's something unusual for a therapist to say.
He was a very, very good therapist and probably did non-traditionally, but that's okay because that's probably why he was such a great therapist and very big help for me. He also wouldn't tell me like what I should or shouldn't do. He would plant seeds. He'd plant these ideas and let them kind of grow on their own, which helped me trust myself instead of like feeling like I needed to lean on someone else. So a lot of my journey with him was me learning how to trust myself through, the planting seeds and then being able to talk through my own stuff. When he said that sounds like a spiritual problem, that's kind of when I started a different kind of spiritual journey. Instead of looking for a religion, I was just looking for a belief. And I will say that having that spiritual belief to the personal development, they go hand in hand. They're two sides of the same coin. So can you share a bit more about, as a spiritual personal development workshop facilitator, like what does that look like and what can our listeners expect if they want to work with you?
Going through kind of a deconversion. I'll share a little bit of my story and how it happened for me. And this is what I hope to facilitate for others, not in being a teacher or as much a leader, but someone to hold space the way I felt like love did for me and give me permission to just be where I was and to establish my own sense of empowerment and make my own way forward. And coming out of deconverting from the Christian faith, my identity was wrapped up in it. My purpose was wrapped up in it. My life mission, everything, my worldview, all of my belief system, all of me, and everything was wrapped up in my faith and my love and my belief in the biblical God. And so when that deconstructed, it just devastated me. Finding each person's own unique way, whether or not it looks like mine or dramatically different, just holding space and allowing you to go within and connect to yourself and your spiritual identity and really explore what that looks like for you. That is, and to establish not a foundation, because there's a groundedness in this 3D world that's really healthy. I mean, we're here. So we're here having this 3D experience. So it's a good idea to kind of connect with it and move with it, without having our head all in the clouds. Certain traumas, the severity can feel like not just the earth has been ripped out from under us, but the whole universe, and that there's nothing to ground into. And love doesn't require us to build on a foundation. She is all encompassing, self-sustaining. We can center, and it's in ourselves. And so it's soft, it's not rigid, it flows, it evolves. according to our needs and how we grow as a person. It doesn't have to be like, for me, previously, I felt like I was built on an invincible foundation, which can give one an immense amount of security for the future. I thought that I could handle anything, even though I didn't believe that consciously. Unconsciously, oh, that was my reality. And so rather than trusting that you always know what's going to happen or that you're prepared for what's going to happen, being centered within and in your own, this is how I move. This is the current moment. That's one thing I found in love, was the current moment and how to comfort me in the now, and not needing to relive the past and not needing to have reassurance about the future, but to always be in the now and to know that love is always right here. I can find her in the now moment. And so those are the kinds of things that we can walk through and talk about and see what resonates with you. My book, Love's Raiment, this is not the cover. It's a meditation journal, and it has some mantras and affirmations. Up for each meditation, there's one mantra and one affirmation. They're building upon, I started with one, September 16th of 2021. I started with one mantra, a daily mantra. That was all I could commit to. From the mental breakdown I had in March of that year, I was a vegetable. I had to be so drugged up. And every time we tried to decrease it, and I would try different modalities of healing. And for me, they didn't work. The only thing that worked was medication. But the challenge of that was that they were so sedating. My alarms to go take my meds would go off. I would forget why I got up from the time. And so finally I discovered, okay, I can hit snooze until I've already taken them. And then if I've already taken them and it goes off, then I can turn it off. I mean, it was just so, I tried so many things, and that was the only thing at the time that helped me cope with what I had been through. It was a turning point for me, September 16th in 2021, because it was the one commitment I could make. I wasn't even completing daily activities, just the basic self-care. I wasn't working. I wasn't able, laundry felt overwhelming. Taking the trash out felt overwhelming. Taking a bath felt overwhelming. And it wasn't that I was depressed. As long as I could be still and just journal or do nothing, I felt comfortable. And that was because of medication. But I struggled so much with staying on it. I would have these episodes of reliving the mental episode I had been through. So I started with a single mantra. And for me, it was to be rooted in love is to be comforted. Because I had been thinking over the months and I had realized love is a phenomenon. I have experienced love. That's something when I was going through the tough stuff that I didn't have consciousness of. And so from my previous spiritual experience, I remember it was drilled into us. Remember the sacred text. Remember what it says, because that's powerful. And so I thought, well, maybe that is one true I can take with me, is to remember. Maybe if I say a mantra about love daily, and what I'm learning now that helps me, maybe when I'm faced with similar trials, I can center into that and remember and not sink down that far and remain in love's comfort. And it worked. I found a month later that I did a little review, and I didn't even do it as a discipline. It was just something that hit me when I was journaling. It's like, oh yeah, I dog-eared that page in my journal where I made that decision because I thought it might be significant that I'm making this one commitment. And that's all it was, is to say a daily mantra mindfully. And I went back and it was like, wow, that made a difference. What else can I add? So I started adding more and more daily mantras. And so they're in here. The mantras about love that helped me so much find my joy and my bliss. There's such a depth to love, just riches of wisdom and inspiration and solutions for all kinds of challenges and problems, and also more than that, the ability to seek out our own way and our own solutions and to make our path forward. It's just so delightful. It's so full of hope and optimism, and I believe that doing that has had a metaphysical effect on me, that my energy is different. I attracted the environment I'm in now, which has lifted me up and enabled me to progress in my recovery and in my dream fulfillment. And I do believe in some elements of the law of attraction, and that there is just an energy in some different environments that if we can move out of that environment, and I believe it started with developing a deeper understanding of love, however you see it or her, and a connection with it and with her. And
It's time to take a short break from our wonderful speaker. Are you in the need of guidance around love, career, family, life, or purpose? Embark on a spiritual journey inward with an intuitive tarot reading. Depending on what you're needing and looking for, I offer private one-on-one sessions as well as personalized email readings. It doesn't matter what the question is. A reading with me provides connection with your higher self, offering curated personal messages, or what I like to refer to as spiritual roadmaps, guiding you to the future outcome you desire. Readings are insightful and affordable. If you'd like more information or to schedule a reading with me, please see the link below.
It sounds like really beautiful work that you're doing, and especially with this workshop. I know you're saying that you're not a teacher or a guide, but I would kind of argue that you're at least a guide, because I think teachers, we feel like that means we have to pass on education and information. But as a guide, that's more of the holding space that you're talking about.
yes,
Because as a guide, you're not really telling them what to do or passing on information per se. You're just holding space to let them go inward and find it for themselves.
absolutely.
A lot of times we need a guide to facilitate that and kind of hold our hand and walk us through it and make sure that we're okay, because going inward can be very scary, especially for those that have never really done that before. So I would definitely say that within your work, you are definitely a guide, and light worker keeps coming to me too around you. I feel like that's a big part of what you're doing. You're doing love's work, which is of the light, right? And you're guiding people back to that place for themselves and really helping them find their center. That's what it sounds like, which I love, because one of my favorite cards in the tarot deck, and you know what, it's funny, I think I just love all the cards almost equally. I have lots of favorite cards, but this one in particular is called the Hierophant. And it's all about deconditioning. It's all about peeling back the layers of what you were told to believe, what was like forced on you to believe by society, by family standards, all these things. And then basically going through and taking inventory and being like, this doesn't resonate, that definitely doesn't resonate. Maybe find the pieces of you that still does within it, but then what else out there maybe, or not even out there, it's more inward, but things that you probably, if to you it felt out there, and then you realize everything you needed was actually here, and it's more like you're getting rid of the things that just didn't resonate anymore.
Exactly.
The Hierophant is all about self-sovereignty. It's about coming back to listening to yourself. It sounds like that's really what you're doing in your workshops, is helping people find that self-sovereignty and doing it in a safe place where they know that they're going to be okay. No matter what happens, they're going to be on the other side. And you're that guiding light that shows them that not only, hey, I've been here, I know what you're going through, I can relate. So I can be here in that sense of I understand and have that compassion, but also you're proof that it's going to be okay and you can make it to the other side. So it's both of those things.
I am living proof that love is a superpower. And what you said made me think of something else. And what I feel like love did for me is that she brought presence where there was no presence, that I felt so disconnected from any comfort, from any presence. And I think that's what we do as empaths, as people who love, is we bring our presence, and that is what's needed. Not instruction, not reassurances, not antidotes, because for certain people, a lot of us find comfort in different sayings or wisdom, and that ability can be not an ability. For someone who's been through severe trauma, there is no security in any comfort that can be offered. And if they can just come with love, if we can just come with love and compassion, if we can be that for ourselves and be that for others, and to just bring presence, that care. You don't even have to be an empath. Empath is where you experience something as if it is you're experiencing another's experience as if it's your own. That is not necessary for love and compassion. That is not necessary for presence. Just caring.
Presence is really where it's at, because we're so caught up, and it's our human mind, right? We're so caught up, stuck in the past, worrying about the future, that we're everywhere else but here. And here is where life literally happens. Here is where joy is.
Exactly.
It's just being present and grounded in the moment. And the thing is, there's certain things that we might, as human beings, especially when we're coming from a traumatic background, we might be looking for that anchor. But that anchor could be as simple as sitting outside, putting your feet on the ground, listening to the bird, feeling the wind on you, just being. And that's an anchor that I think is really understated. That's not really talked about as much. There's all these tools. Those are so helpful, but just learning how to just be is a challenge. But that, I think, is where everything starts, because when you're able to just be, that's when you can feel what's really happening right now. You can feel what's happening in here, which I know we don't always want to go there, but that's how you heal, right? And also that's how you can start feeling that connection with spirit, that there's something else here. You're not alone. So in the work that you're doing with your book that you wrote, before I go farther, how can our listeners find your book?
I'll send you the link so you can post it in the description. Is my Facebook page, on my author page on Facebook, Shawna Vargas. And Chenoweth is spelled Chen, Chen, the letter O, with W-E-T-H, Chenoweth. Shawna Vargas. And I have a post, or I will have a post there. I'm just now making it available. If you message me, I can send you a link to the free ebook, and it's free as an ebook. And if you would like a hard copy, a paperback, then that's $10, and that includes shipping in the US. I don't know how much it is to ship overseas or to another country, so we could work that out. But yeah,
I will definitely put that in the notes. And it is such a beautiful gift that you're even offering, that the free ebook, especially with those mantras and meditations. And that could be a really great start for those who don't really know where to start. Thank you for offering that. So with the work that you're doing, between being a workshop facilitator and author and your message, do you feel like you're living your mission and really living like what you're supposed to be doing here on Earth?
Definitely. For me, I have defined my own purpose. It wasn't divinely given, that I gave myself permission to make that way. That's what felt most safe for me, and something that I could buy into and trust in. I only had trust for myself in the current moment and where I was at. So to take a baby step from there, it's like, okay, what would be my purpose if I had a choice, and if it was a divinely given calling? It would be love. And that was basically where I started from. And then sort of an evolution of self-discovery came out of that. Well, I've done workshops before in mental health recovery, and I have I have these skills and I have these things I enjoy. I love making art. And so that's part of what I do, home decor and jewelry and things like that, that have a spiritual significance and meaning to the recipient. And then writing, I love writing. And there's so many wonderful insights into love that one can discover that are enriching and empowering and inspiring. Did that answer your question?
And I know I shifted the word mission from purpose to mission. It's something that kind of dawned on me in a previous interview, where I feel like purpose can almost be misconstrued as it has to be this big thing, this big grandiose thing. Whereas mission is more of like, this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm here to facilitate and put out into the world, which has like I don't know, to me, it has like a softer energy around it.
Yeah.
And exactly what you're explaining is, it's not just, oh, I'm just a facilitator. It's, I really want to facilitate love. And that can come in how many different forms,
Right.
in your crafting and just sharing your messages, how you connect with people every day. And it's kind of funny, but I was speaking to someone who is very spiritual and reads the Akashic records and things like that. And when she was asking about her purpose through the Akashic records, they said there's two purposes. The first one is love. That's everyone's purpose. The second one is we have our individual mission statements, right? That speaks to us as individuals. Like, I feel like my underlining mission is really just to help empower and remind the people I work with that, hey, you're in charge and you're in the driver's seat. Yeah. So, I mean, so I think we all have like this different fragments of the same thing ultimately. We just have different focus. And I love how yours is encompassing. Yours is like the one that we all should attain for is just love.
And wholeness. And that is a central theme for me is facilitating a path to wholeness, fulfillment, and just all your dreams, that thing that makes you feel most alive and most rewarded. It's possible because as humans, we're the only animal that can do this, that can carve out and create in an intelligent way a path for ourselves that is happy and rewarded. So one path, one valid path. I don't think it's for everybody. I think for some people, we're also unique, that totally looks different for other people. This is what worked for me, and I think it'll help some others.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that saying that we're all unique. It's true. We're all different, but we're also all one. Like they're both can be true. But yeah, we have our unique stories. We all have our unique gifts and skill sets that we're here to bring to the world in different ways.
I love that you said that we're both one and we also have a uniqueness, because the way I see it is like being one organic body with all these different members, with the tissue and the cells and the heart and the organs and the tendons and bone and everything. There's all these different functions, and everybody is beautiful, but there is not that purpose fulfilled life outside of the one, because we're so interconnected, whether we realize it or not. I even suspect, of course, I don't have certainty about anything. That's something that I hold loosely to anymore. But I have kind of a strong suspicion that there is an eternal signature to each little cell and each little appendage of this beautiful thing called love and consciousness. And that it's okay to have an identity. I think in some new age concepts, it's like, no, you're nothing. There is nothing. was like, that's kind of an nihilistic way to look at things. It's like, I like being in identity. I like being part of the one and being totally one. And so my approach is kind of a paradoxical or dichotomous in that it's a little bit non-dualistic in the oneness, and it's a little bit dualistic in that there is some individuality as well allowed for a stream of consciousness.
I really love the analogy of like, if love was, an alive organism, like you're saying, and how we all play a part in different ways. I really love that because all of our skill sets are so unique. Even if there's another tarot reader, they're going to read differently than I do. You know what I mean? Like all of our skills
Right.
are unique to us, and only we can bring it the way that we do. So we all play a unique part, but we're all part of the whole. I have definitely heard this idea that, I think that that's the wrong way to go about it. The whole let's build ourselves up a little more there, because that's why, like, we are love. We are all part of source consciousness, and source consciousness is experiencing life through us. And yes, this human identity may be a short-lived identity. We probably have had thousands of other identities, as if you believe in reincarnation and past lives, which I do.
Right. Me
And
too.
so yeah, and so with that, I mean, this is probably a very short-lived identity, which of course our little ego is like, wait, I don't want to.
I know. Right?
But then, you hear about these stories of people who have like have the NDEs, or they have near-death experiences, and then they explain how they don't. Once you're reunited with source, like there is no, there's no part of you that misses the ego or the identity. So,
Yeah.
and that's a broad concept in and of itself, but I think that we're supposed to have an identity here. That's why we're human. That's why we're here we're not humans having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience, and that's just all part of it. From here, I'd love to shift to what I like to call synchronicity story time. And so I know that you've listened to my episodes, so you probably kind of know what to expect with this one, but I love synchronicity stories because it's kind of like, it's a little wink from the universe. It's the universe letting you know you're right where you're supposed to be. You're not alone, and we're here guiding you. So do you have any stories like that you could share?
I do. It's not like it's something that some more realist type personalities wouldn't say. That's so unlikely that it has to be divine, someone else wouldn't. But for me, it was definitely spiritual, and it was my little dog flower pot. It was right when I was going through the most traumatic point of my life, and she came into my life completely free to me, and she was like an angel. She gave me that presence, and she's an unusual dog in that she likes to be embraced. I had never had a dog that liked to be hugged. And she'll just melt into you like and nuzzle your neck like, and just amazing. And then she would hold eye contact with me. I was so isolated from human contact, and that was part of the problem. And it was like having a human hug. It was like having another person with me. And when I looked at her, there was like this mystical awareness that there is more, that there's not just suffering, that there's not just this 3D reality, that there is love. And I saw, I'm one of those believers that animals have souls. It's just, I saw that in her, and it gave me a comfort that helped me move forward. And so it was just at that time, and it was only in retrospect that I saw, wow, she came then. Of all the times in my 54-year or 52 back then, she was my little synchronicity. She was my little sign that I wasn't alone.
It's such a beautiful story. And I'm a believer too that animals have souls. They have their own purpose here. They have their own reason to be here. But I do believe some pets and animals definitely have something a little more magical to them, where they're placed at the right place, the right time. My cat, who's around here somewhere, he jumped in my car. He, like, what kind of cat jumped in your car? I mean, I had to shoo him out because I was taking my daughter to school and I had to go to work. But then we'd see him around. So we kind of knew he was a stray. And a month later, on the coldest night of the year, which in Southern California, I know doesn't sound like it gets that cold here, but it was like 30 degrees.
That's freezing.
It's cold. I know other places are like, that's not bad, but for
I
us.
know.
And he met us at my carport, and then he literally followed us home, and I opened the door and he walked right in. And then there's been all these synchronicities with him since then that I'm so convinced that he was supposed to be here. My daughter wanted a cat or a dog, and she was kind of very big personality. And so I wasn't sure how a pet would really fit in. Plus I was a single mom. So I was like, how am I supposed to handle a dog? I can't handle a dog. And I don't really know much about cats. And then he literally walked into our life. Like, he's really spunky. So if she was too rough on him, he'd give it right back to her. They were like little so it just felt like he was supposed to be part of the family. And then there was more synchronicity that's not really important now, but down the line, there were more synchronicities around him that made me just blow my mind. So, I think definitely feel like, especially pets, they can be like angels in disguises, and they're really here to be our companions, and I don't really know how I feel about, I've heard different things on this, whether or not like our souls always recycle as human beings, or if they sometimes recycle as pets. Like I've heard things on that, and I personally don't know how I feel about it. Like I haven't come up with an opinion yet, but it could be that we come back to as, in forms of animals to comfort other humans too. Don't know. Or they're just their own unique, pure souls that just, come there. I don't know. But I love that. And I'm so glad that your dog was able to be there for you and showed up at the right time, which I love looking back at things in hindsight, because sometimes that's one of the biggest synchronicities are, where you don't know it at the time. And then when you look back, you're like, I can't believe all these doors opened at the right time, at the right place.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have known it until you look back. My final question that I ask everybody is, do you believe we all have a purpose or a mission here on Earth?
I think that's subjective. I know I have an unusual answer, and I'm thinking particularly about those who have a more atheistic or agnostic view and that they're comfortable with it, or people who not necessarily are. Maybe they have a faith perspective. Like I'm thinking of someone in particular right now that I've known. He didn't appear to have any felt purpose or any mission, and didn't feel the need for it. He was a very happy, well-adjusted person, a loving person. And I think that just looks differently. And some of us could look on that and say, well, that is their purpose, to live this way. And I think that's a little presumptuous. I think, that's a valid path and a valid perspective if that's the way they feel about it or see it. So I think it's subjective, and that we can create our mission. To me, I feel like it's been arranged. I'm just hardwired, and I just don't want to assume that it's that way for everybody else, because I don't think that is the experience for everyone else, and that's validity enough.
Well, that's a good point. And I think that also kind of comes back to people's spiritual awareness, and if they're sleepwalking or if they're awake too. Because I don't know, I've heard so many different stories of people who found their purpose or mission statement, where they find the thing that just lights them up. They love it. They could do it all day long, and they can see how it's impacting the world in a positive way. And, then I know some people who just are really happy with being content and not stepping out of their box. And I don't know if that's one of those things where it's like, personally, I think for me, I feel like life is kind of all about evolving and growing, but not everyone has that perspective. So I think that we're all here experiencing what we're supposed to experience. I think we all have a mission statement, but I don't think all of us find it in this lifetime. And I think that's okay too, because if Source is out here experiencing life from all the different perspectives it could experience from, that could have been its experience. They weren't ready to spiritually awaken in this particular lifetime. It doesn't mean they had a bad life or, a life that wasn't worthy. Because I think it comes down to just like what I was sharing earlier, and what you've already shared too, is the overarching purpose, according to a lot of spiritual people, is love. It's just simply love. And I don't know if you've seen the new Disney movie called Soul. Highly recommended. It's a cartoon.
Really?
It's such a cool idea of like little souls and coming to Earth, and it's a really
Oh,
progressive movie. But the message
wow.
was they were looking. The whole thing was kind of about finding your purpose, and by the end of it, the whole thing was like, you humans and your purpose. It's just about experiencing life. That's what your purpose is. Just
Wow.
take in the moments, kind of like how I was
Mm,
ground in the moment, to feel the wind on your face and hear the birds in the
yeah.
moment. Like that's what
That's
living,
awesome.
and so I think it's a bunch of different answers are the right ones, because there is no right.
Yeah.
It's like an umbrella, and there's so many different opportunities and perspectives. I don't think we'll really understand until we get to the other side, like what it was about. And maybe we're all wrong. But follow your happiness, follow what lights you up, and what is making a difference in the world, even if it's putting out a painting. That can be, you're putting out a painting that, yeah, you're going to sell it, and someone buys it, puts it in their living room, and that inspires them every day. Like there are
Yeah.
different ways you can impact the world without necessarily being a speaker or a healer or a light worker.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that answer. It's different, but it's true. There's so many other perspectives and avenues that it could look like. If our listeners want to work with you or find you, whether or not they want to reach out and get your book, which I know you're gonna give me the link for that, but like if they want to be a part of your workshop, or just get to know you or talk to you, or follow you, how can they find you?
On Facebook. I haven't branched out as of yet to TikTok or YouTube or anything like that. I may do that in the future. For now, working on content and promoting what I already have. But yeah, Facebook definitely. Shawna Vargas, and just message me. I am in the Yosemite area in California. If you would like to travel if you'd like to know when my next workshops are going to be, you can contact me through Facebook, and I'll be posting it too on my page. There's that. And then you can also email me through shamanic symbols at yahoo.com. That's my official business name. And so you can connect with me that way. That's how they can get in touch with me, find out more about what I do. And
Perfect. I'll be sure to put all that in the show notes. Reach out to her, and definitely inquire about that book that she's offering. That's such a beautiful offering that I think everyone could take something from. And yeah, this has been such a wonderful conversation.
thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan.
I so appreciate you, and your words of wisdom. We had such a great conversation today. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you.
Thank you for joining me on another inspiring episode. Remember, your purpose is a unique and unfolding path. I hope these conversations have ignited a spark within you. Until next time, keep exploring, growing, and embracing the beautiful adventure of connecting with your purpose. Stay tuned for more meaningful conversations. If you're wanting more, consider joining our free Facebook community called Spirit Journey Collective, your haven for spiritual exploration and personal growth. Dive into a supportive community where sharing spiritual experiences is encouraged. Unlock the power of intuition, embark on a journey of self-discovery, and connect with like-minded souls. If this sounds like a community you'd love to plug into, the link is in the show notes below. If you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for joining me on this journey.